So when we were in the hospital, so for the 48 hours we were in there right after he was diagnosed, they gave us 2 glucose monitors and the ketone monitor. And then, which they gave us that, obviously we paid for the hospital, so I'm not sure exactly how much we paid for that, but we just paid our hospital bill. But so we have those, so we have a backup. They gave us 2, which was great. And they actually, Utah Valley has a diabetes management clinic, and grandparents and caretakers can go to a class and learn about how to take care of a crash course. And they gave each grandparent a glucose monitor also, so they would have them at their house. So that was free, but it's really expensive. And insurance has not covered much. We pay for just the test strips to check his blood. We pay for 100 of them, we pay around $100 a month. And then, so that's just the strips. And then insulin, there's 2 different kinds of insulin. There's the baseline insulin, and then there's the one you give him for every the foods that he eats. We pay around $230 a month just for insulin. So that's $330 right there. And then lancets, so the needles that go in the poke, are like another $30. And then needles are, I think this last month I got 200 needles, which lasts us about 6 weeks. 200 needles will last us about 6 weeks right now. And I pay like $125 for those. So we're talking like $500 a month-ish. And now that we're at the beginning of our deductible again, he was sick, Henry was sick just last week. And I had to go and get, there's special strips to check ketones. And I got 10 strips and I paid $53 for 10 strips. And when a kid is sick, you have to check for ketones every 3 hours. So if he were sick like for a week, 10 strips is only gonna last us like a day and a half. And so when his ketones are gone, I can stop checking for him. But if he starts showing signs again the next day, like if he has a fever again the next day, I need to check for ketones again. So we're talking like, it could be several $100s just in a week, just for the ketone strips. So it's been really expensive. And we have fantastic pharmacists who have done their very best to find us every discount, every coupon that they could possibly find us. Unfortunately, most of the insulin and other diabetic products will not give the big discounts for children under the age of 18. So when he's 18, his baseline insulin, which is Lantus is what we use, we can get a coupon and we'll only pay $25 for it. But until then, we're paying like $100 for it, which is it's very frustrating because that's a huge expense every month. Luckily, I should say that the insulin does come in packs of like 4 vials, which will last us a couple months. So I'm not necessarily paying $200 every month, but I'm paying $200 every time I have to get insulin. So I think I buy insulin about every 3 months. We've been living with type 1 diabetes for 9 months now. So I think that's about right. I think I've bought it 3 times. So yeah, it's expensive. It's really expensive. And reality is, they told us when we left the hospital that reality is that we will probably be in and out of the hospital with Henry 3 times before he's 12. Just because if he gets really sick. And so if we can keep on top of it, hopefully that won't happen, but life just happens. And if he goes to like scout camp and decides not to take care of it, or if he goes, overnight with a friend and just, when he's older and he's in charge of it. So yeah, it's a bit of a challenge. And insulin is only good for a month. So even if you have half a vial left, you have to throw it away because it won't be effective anymore. So if he goes somewhere and let's say I forget to give him new insulin and he's gone for it might be okay for a day or two, but if he's gone for a whole week, then it'll stop being effective after a few days. So, there's that reality too. So we just plan now a few $100s a month for all of his needs, and then we just have a savings account where we're putting money in for hopefully it's not inevitable, but it feels inevitable. Hopefully it won't be, but a hospital visit. So, and our hospital visit, we paid, even after insurance, I think we paid $7,000. Yeah, because every time they gave him insulin in the hospital, every little shot of insulin was like $50. Whereas now I'm like, I could have given him millions of shots of insulin for that much. But, that's just how it works, unfortunately. Yeah, it was a shock. We had been saving for buying a house, and all of our money for the house went, which obviously, I'd rather have my kid alive than a house, right? But all of our money that we had saved for the house. And we were extremely lucky in that we had that money saved and that we could afford it. Whereas a lot of people, all of a sudden a $7,000 bill, I mean, wow. So, and we saw the bill before, obviously we'd see what it would have been before insurance, and we're looking, I think it was like $17,000. And so our insurance did cover a lot, and I just can't imagine families that don't have good insurance or any insurance or, whatever. What do you do? The thing that a lot of insurance companies will offer is a diabetes counselor. So we're with Select Health right now, and they have a pediatric diabetes counselor that we enrolled with them, and so they'll keep track of how much we're paying and what we're buying and everything, and they have a counselor that we can call and talk to. But I've called and talked to them, and they similar to what our pharmacists have done, they've tried to find every coupon and every discount and whatever that they could find us, but and we have had some success with that, but not much. So and then we're actually going to be, my husband just got hired at a new job with the state government, and they have fantastic insurance, the best insurance. But even then, they have a diabetes counselor, but there's no, they won't just cover it. So once we meet our deductible, it'll be the 80-20%, so they pay 80% and we'll pay 20%. So at the end of the year, this last year, obviously with the hospital visit, we met our deductible. And so it was a lot cheaper at the end of the year, whereas, like I said, just to get those, I think in December, for those 10 ketone strips, I paid $6, and then I paid $50 this last week because our deductible started over. So, I mean, I guess the happy side of it is that you'll meet your deductible really quick in the year. So, when we're ready to have another baby, that'll meet our deductible super fast, and on the positive side. But I know that JDRF, which is the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, they do a lot of fundraisers for research and that kind of thing. And I know if you are involved with them, I don't know that you necessarily get any discounts or anything, but there is a community that's pretty tight. We're not super involved with that, just because we just have a really busy young family, and so that hasn't really happened yet. But yeah, there's not that I know of. I wish, but like I said, I haven't done a whole ton of research into that, partly because the diabetes clinic that we're part of, a lot of the nurses there actually either have type 1 or have a family member with type 1. And so we've learned a lot from them about what they've done and asked, how do you guys cope with the expense? And none of them have mentioned anything like that. One thing that we hope to eventually get is they do have pumps that it's like a little, I guess it's like a little catheter or IV kind of is an IV, where you can just plug in your numbers and it will give Henry the appropriate insulin, so we won't have to do needles. We've asked about that, like if that is a cheaper option, because obviously the initial expense is really high. It's like $1,000 or $2,000, even with insurance help. But I guess the vials for pumps are still pretty expensive. And so you won't be saving money if you get a pump versus using the needles and the other vials. But I don't know. We're still pretty new, like 9 months. It feels like forever. But then I think about it in the scheme of things and I'm like, yeah, we're still really learning. But we have learned a lot just in 9 months though. And, so yeah, it's expensive.